So now that I've broken down what this whole kidnapping thing was distracting us from, let's break down the kidnapping, because I see a lesson in it.
It was surveillance video to send chills through any parent. A 16-year-old snatched off a Bronx street. Tonight, police sources tell us it was all staged by an unhappy young woman and 4 accomplices. Blurry surveillance video shows the scene in Melrose, the Bronx, near 775 Eagle Avenue. 11:30 Monday night. 4 men in a sedan pull up to 16-year-old Karol Sanchez and her mother, grab the girl, push the mom to the ground. The NYPD put out an Amber Alert and flooded the neighborhood with missing posters. Then, 2:30 this afternoon, Sanchez suddenly showed back up at the scene, turned herself into police as stunned people on the street watched.
Yeah, that's her.
We was at the pole over there looking at her picture, and as we walking up the block, she was crossing the street to the cop car, and then I was like, yo, that's her right there.
She was shaking up. She was bending over, grabbing her knees, and discussing with the police officer, and that's when they took her into the parking lot for questioning.
Later brought here to the 40th Precinct Station House in Mott Haven, where police sources tell us she confessed to staging the entire incident with 4 accomplices. Sanchez and family members left the station house a short time ago. Family issues apparently at the root of the unhappiness this young woman felt. The NYPD wants to talk to all involved before deciding who, if anyone, will face charges.
Sanchez is not expected to face charges, which I think is very interesting in a system of white supremacy. Not that I think that I'm never happy to see anybody go to jail or anybody face charges, but I really do think that it's interesting that in a system of white supremacy, the white supremacists are not charging her. But let's keep going. Late Tuesday, cops were still looking to question the 4 men who were in the car, one of whom is believed to be her gang banger beau, sources said. That man's name is being withheld because he has yet to be charged with a crime in this case. And he has already several arrests on his record, including 1 for murder and another for attempted murder, sources said. The bogus kidnapping was a twisted plan for the young lovers to be together, police said. Also noting that Sanchez had been upset over her mother's plan to uproot the family and go back to her native Honduras. Her mother wanted to move them back to Honduras, but she, Karol, was admittedly against it, said one high-ranking police officer. So one time I was having a conversation with one of my mother's friends. We were talking about the boyfriend that I had at the time, and I was basically explaining to her and running down the list of things, the reasons why I didn't think this relationship was going to last and why I believed I was going to break up with him. I tend to think things through very thoroughly ahead of time and talk them out with people whose opinion I respect. So she was one of those people. So as I was talking to her, she looked at me in amazement. She was just kind of just like gazing at me. And she said, you know what, you're so strong. And I was like, at the time, I think I was like in my early 20s. So I was really confused. Like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about this boyfriend that I can't stand, right? And she's like, the fact that you just pick up and leave. Like, she goes, do you understand what a privilege you have? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, you get that because you got so much love at home that you can walk away from any situation that doesn't serve you. And I never, ever looked at it that way. And from that moment, it gave me a larger respect for my parents because of the way they emotionally set me up for life. Now, I say all that to say that this young girl, in my opinion, is missing something at home. It's more than just she didn't want to move with her parents. I feel she's missing something at home. And this is not to disparage her parents. Because I know this because I also was once 16 years old. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I didn't look quite as old as this girl. I always looked young. So when I was 10, I looked 7. When I was 13, I looked 10, okay? So when I was 16, I looked 13, okay? So I always looked crazy young. So my experience with older men kind of started a little bit older. So I was about 18 at the time. And I remember there was an older man that he was like in his late 20s, early 30s. And he was really, really, really coming for me hard. Like, he was at my job every day, coming to see me, everything. He was really coming at me hard. And I remember distinctively one of the things that he did was try to pull me away from my mother. telling me that I could come live with him and that we could be together. But once again, I was so secure. Even though my mother and I was not getting along, I couldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, we was fighting all the time because I'm at that age, and you know what I mean? We were fighting all the time. Hold on. I ain't trying to leave my mama, though. I'm 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. I'm not going to leave my mother. You're bugging. And why is that? It's because as much as I couldn't stand my mother at the time, and because I was a teenager, I knew she loved me. I knew that living with her was best for me, even though she annoyed the living shit out of me. I knew she had the best for me. Now, part of the reason I think that my mother instilled this in me is my mother also told me the truth. My mother also told me when I was young, she would be like, you could call 911, like after she spanked us or whatever. You could call 911 if you want to. She said, because they ain't going to do nothing but take you away. She goes, I'm going to be fine. They're going to take you away and put you in foster care. She goes, and God knows what you're going to get. So call 911 if you want to. So my mother had us shook. My mother had us covering for her. Okay? Because we knew we didn't, no matter what, we ain't want to leave her.
And I say, you can produce sex obsession if you do not meet the dependency needs of children. Children have to have mature parenting. They have to sit on the lap. They have to be held when they want to be picked up. You can't say, get away from me, you're too big. That's 18 months. Children have to be held and comforted. If they don't get it, they will be vulnerable to alcohol, they will be vulnerable to drugs, and they will be vulnerable to sex obsession and vulnerable to sexual abuse. Because children want to be close, they need that closeness. And little children, young people, are not in a position to do that. Don't feel bad. But somebody 17, 16 can't take care of a child for 25 years. But for the teacher to say, now this is what we're going to do, the child who hasn't had their emotional needs met, hasn't been given that security. The child will say, I can't do it. And then somebody will attack the child and say they're lazy. No, they just have not had their emotional needs met, because when children are held and given sufficient emotional attention and help, they will eventually say, let me down, let me do it, I can do it. But if they don't get held, they'll always be whining, you see, and looking for that attention and be called a nuisance. So we've got to master the science of black child production, development, for countering racism, because this is a war. Nobody is going to maximally develop us but ourselves. So nobody needs to feel bad if they didn't do it. Just think about it and pass the information along so that we stop giving children away to foster care. See, this is painful to children. And they end up being physically abused, sexually abused. Now, there's some superb foster parents. I'm not talking about them. But children have been mistreated when other people are taking care of them. If the parents are not mature, their own biological parents can mistreat them. But we want to perfect taking care of our children so that they can be instruments for the production of justice on this planet. Sometimes women keep hoping that the next man is going to stay with them. You see, and so maybe if I have a child by him, he'll stay. You see, and then they end up in a big, long fight, child support fight. Do you see what I'm saying? We're not helping each other. I'm not blaming the man, I'm not blaming the woman, I'm blaming the conditions. That we have to understand the conditions and master the conditions. One of the things that Neely Fuller says that people need to have a list of 200 questions minimum. 200 questions that the man asks the woman asks the man. They're not the same question. Everybody has their 200 or 500 list before there's any sexual activity. See, because when people start out with sexual activity, you have the illusion of closeness and being on the same page. And then after the sex gets a little bit familiar, you say, well, who is this? What is it that you like? What are your practices? What do you do? Just all different kinds of questions. You see, if you have the money, get a detective. You see, in other words, what? Getting to know the person, because you are engaged in serious business. The serious business of producing a black child. And the child needs as much stability as he and she can get. See, now nobody has to be feeling bad because, hey, we have been put under these hellish conditions for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, and we have been hoping that they want to integrate us into the goodies. Well, now we're finding out that's not where they're coming from. Yeah. They're coming from save themselves. And in saving themselves, they feel we have to be destroyed. So we have to get an army of black people who love and respect black, love and respect themselves, treat one another with respect, so that our children look at us and they see love and they see respect. And they don't go around saying, I don't want to be black. Right. See, they start saying, I'm black and I'm proud. And black is beautiful. Because they see that carrying out in front of them. And that goes for all of us, how we are interrelating with each other. And what we are teaching our children and what it is that is our cosmic assignment on this planet. See, God wasn't playing when he made us the parents of everybody. That's right. See, we've just fallen out of line. And I'm sure the Creator is sitting back and saying, I gave you everything you need to work with. Yes, ma'am. Now I'm going to see whether you're going to rise up to what I made you to be. Children need male models. You see, and this is why women, our responsibility is, you're the handsomest man I've ever seen. Yes. But you are not interested in getting married. So you are not interested in being a father. So therefore you're not interested in having sex. See, and the men should say, now that's the kind of woman I want to relate to. You see, somebody who is thinking deeply and respecting themselves. Again, what's the goal objective? We're not just talking about, putting on perfume in what position to satisfy ourselves. We're talking about whether we're going to have a future as a people. Right. So we have to get our act together beyond the individual self-satisfaction and see a nation, a global nation that we are supposed to be building 21st century. Or if we're not going to do that, then we need to be satisfied with genocide. Right.
Oh, I come from a lovey-dovey family. I'm not really lovey-dovey, okay? I mean, lots of hugs and kisses, and my mom would just smother me with them. And I'd be like, Mom, let me go. Just like Dr. Francis West used to say, let me go. Let me do it. I got it. I can do it. And looking at this situation with this young lady, the reason I question her relationship with her mother is she allowed her boyfriend to knock down her mama. See, even if I was dumb enough to do something like that, the second you put your hand on my mama, it would have been a problem. Sorry. Fake kidnapping done. I'm sorry. You put your hand on my mama, you got to go. Okay? And then not only that, the fact that she faked it and then went home. She wasn't afraid of her mama enough. Because let me tell you something. I'm afraid of my mama to this day.
To this day.